Hey guys, what's up? It's Reminder. I am here to do another life purpose reading. Today we're going to be talking about Pierre Poilievre. So if you don't know, my name is Reminder, or I go by the RKH. I am a lawyer turned spiritual psychic healer, and a lot of what I do is teach my clients about life purpose. And more recently, I've been talking more about the life purpose of prominent government leaders so we can better understand their thought process, what they're going through, and kind of detaching from the ego, the greed, and maybe just, I don't know, pitying them a little bit. So I'd really appreciate if you watch till the end, if you let me know what you think, comment, like, and subscribe if you want more of these videos, all right? So let's get started. If you don't know who Pierre Poilievre is, he is the new leader of the Conservative Party in Canada. He just replaced Candice Bergen, I think her last name is. And so I want to say that I'm not somebody that relates to one political party versus the other. There was a time where I was more liberal. I've never really been conservative. I mean, the more I listen to Pierre Poilievre, I'm like, okay, yeah, I think that right now maybe he'd be a better fit. Do I think there's a 100% fit for who should be our leader, prime minister? No. In my ideal world, there would be no prime minister. Let's just say that. And so I don't side to one person or the other, or to one side or the other. I think a lot of you that know me from my actual Instagram page, my platform there, will understand what I do and what I mean by that. But overall, I wanted to break down Pierre. People wanted Pierre more than they wanted Jagmeet Singh, and Jagmeet Singh will be next in the next couple of weeks. I will make that video and post that for you so we can have an overarching view of him. And so I've done Trudeau, Freeland, Bonnie Henry, and now it is going to be Mr. Poilievre. So I find his energy very interesting. I actually did assume that he would be a projector. He's a mental projector, and a projector is somebody that is here to bring like the light and people towards them. They are here to be like, they're invited to opportunity, right? And so he really took the opportunity to lead and to be a voice for people that were marginalized or underrepresented. Of course, we know that people naturally take whatever opportunities that they can in order to advance their interests, which is very much also a part of his human design. Human design is our body anatomy, is our soul blueprint from the time we were born. We live our life unpacking our design and our subconscious. And so that's basically what this reading is. It's teaching like how he was born, what he was meant to achieve, how he was meant to succeed, and what his kind of hiccups and sabotage are, right? So he is a 2-4 profile in human design. That means that he is a hermit and opportunist. And what that means is, like I said, he takes opportunity. He more learns what he needs to do based on the reactions of other people. He processes and he takes that forward in implementing policy, or in the House of Commons, speaking about what he thinks will be met with honor, let's say. And so for him, he does his research. He's only 43 years old. He knows how to access social media and use that for his highest good. And so what you post and what you tag him in, and if you really like him or whatever, even if not, he is paying attention to that and manipulating his strategy accordingly. I mean, that is a sign of an effective leader. And whether or not he is going to be able to produce better, more honorable results than Trudeau, if he ends up being in the position of prime minister, which I think is highly possible. I mean, and time will tell, right? If that's something that he is going to achieve. And so he is taking every opportunity possible and has taken those opportunities to put himself forward in front of the public eye. I want to say, given that he's taking the opportunity to do that, I do feel very sorry for him. I know that there is someone named Jeremy or something that had talked shit about his wife and said that he wants to, trigger warning, rape her and essentially commit assault on her brown ass, talking about how hot she is or something on a podcast that he did. There's a lot of people that think that that's a political stunt employ. I don't think that there are a lot of people with integrity out there that would purposefully put their the wife of their wife and mother of their children out in the media to have those kind of comments and put against her. And so I personally don't think that that's true. I think there's just a lot of stupid people on the planet and in the government, and we just have to unfortunately live through that. So like I said, he is somebody that takes opportunity. He is a projector, like I already said, and so for him, he was given the green light to go ahead and put his hat forward, to be like, what do you think about me? And this really happened during the Freedom Convoy when he was, talking down about Trudeau. Trudeau's talking about extremists and terrorism and all of that when it came to those, and white supremacists, whatever, when it came to the Freedom Convoy. A lot of you know that I was a big supporter of that. It was a huge part of our awakening. It was also something that showed the biases within people of color and marginalized groups that were unwilling to see the efforts for what it was, which was a humanitarian effort. Whether there were people that were wrong in that, of course, there's always bad eggs in every single batch, but the good efforts of the individuals and citizens on this planet, really on this planet overall, not just in Canada, overpowered any sort of hate or Semitism, racism, etc. Okay. So for him, his authority is a sounding board authority. What's funny is that he has the same authority as Freeland. He's the second person that I've seen with a sounding board authority, and I've read for a lot of projectors before. And so for him, he's able to better process when he speaks out loud, similar to Freeland. And so the difference between the two of them is that she is speaking shit. She's not speaking the truth, and so she has a hard time listening to herself. If you want to watch that video again, you can go on my page and watch that. But what I explained is that she doesn't actually believe what she's saying, therefore she's very vague. Pierre knows what he's saying is the truth. He knows what he's saying is logical and concrete and either backed by evidence or not backed by evidence, and he has a common sense approach about him. So for him, he's able to be very vocal. For him, that keeps him in his light and in his power, and it is empowering and helps him be in his masculine energy when he is rewarded for speaking his truth and being in that authority figure vibe. And so the main difference there is when he speaks and when he hears himself speak, he's able to understand that that's the truth. He's able to understand that he's speaking from a place of conviction, a place of reality, a place of resonance, because he's reading these comments, he's reading what people are saying, and he's actually able to bring that forward in the House of Commons. And so I think that he does that very, very well. His incarnation cross is a right angle cross of consciousness. And so the main things that I have written down here are that he has the right, he knows how to assess situations, especially under pressure. So he has a calm demeanor under him that's very much a part of his purpose. He's able to help the collective from repeating mistakes. Because he takes the opportunity to step forward as a leader, he's able to kind of like show others how to act, or be like, you know what, don't try this instead, try this approach. And so he'll be very effective if he does become Prime Minister in helping his constituents, but also the MLAs and MPs that align with his views. I mean, he can still do that as the leader of the, right now, opposition. He is able to help people that are naive. So people that don't have the experience, he's able to help them grow. And he is able to do that because he actually genuinely wants to. It's a huge part of his purpose. He genuinely wants to help. And some of you may not know, as I was reading up on him and getting his birth date, he is adopted. So I don't know who knows that about him, but Pierre is adopted, and he was also his biological brother was also adopted as well. And so he has a sense of empathy and understanding of the system. He has an understanding of the hardship and marginalization, even if on the outset he is white. He has had those layers added to him, where that trauma is or whether it was oppression, we don't really know. But overall, he has faced that sort of hardship where he, would naturally have identity kind of in his chart as well, maybe identity issues or trying to figure out what he stands for, where he's from, who he is. And he knows that other people also face that. And so even though many have negative things to say about him, at the bottom of his heart, he is a good person with the right intention, even though, there will naturally be things that we don't all align with when it comes to him, naturally things that we maybe won't agree on or stand for. And I have been vocal about how I don't like how he has spread misinformation about the law, for example. So when certain policy and law and legislation was changing, he marked it as something that it was not, in terms of like, oh, now murderers are going to be out on the street. And it's like, no, murderers are not going to be out on the street. It's about giving people an access to a fair trial. And believe it or not, we have a right to that in Canada, right? Doesn't mean that automatically means you're going to be out. And so he, there's things that I think when he takes the opportunity to speak, it's speaking half-truths or mistruths, which is not something that I agree with. And so he may play on people's naive energy at that time. So let's look a little bit into his activations in his chart. And so the main activation in his purpose is gate 35. He's highly capable of implementing change. He's highly capable of putting himself at the forefront to be the change. And so we are seeing that right now. He is putting a new face to Canadian politics, as well as, kind of like what Trudeau did, that fresh, rejuvenized energy. He's able to really bring that forward in a way to achieve success for himself and hopefully for Canada as a whole. In gate 43 to 23, he's able to break through any sort of misunderstandings. So he's a sweet talker for sure. He has the ability to communicate easily. He has the ability to step back and be quick on his feet in order to transform what he's saying, in order to really bring his messaging to the forefront. It's like, what is it that I'm trying to get across? He's really good at that. 64 to 47, he has a positive mindset, a really big picture, and he does that with integrity. And so even though, like I said, there are things that we may not like about him, or there's things that are a question mark, he tries to do everything with the utmost integrity, and naturally people are going to slip up. That's what happens when you are in the public eye, and the bigger you become and the more of a competitor or threat that you become, the more things that become highlighted and flashed at you, right? It's like taking a black light over his whole life and bringing out things that maybe he did a long time ago. We may see a lot of that, but he's going to be able to use that knowledge that may come out as a way to have teachable moments, to, like I said, be empathetic, to humanize the experience and exactly where he was at that particular point, because he's in this middle generation as he's at the age of 43, where he relates to the younger crowd. He also relates to the older crowd. And so he's able to bring that forward really, really productively. He does also have a little bit of doubt in his chart, like where he needs things to be proven to him, but also he knows that his ability to create and be effective is not going to come overnight. Like, he's not going to get the validation that he needs overnight. A little bit about his conditioning and where his susceptibility is in his chart. So more of his like sabotage. He kind of has like this thought that he's going to plateau. Like, is there going to be something else for me to talk about? Is there going to be something else that I can do? In the House of Commons the other day, he talked about this tomato farm or greenery, and I thought that was nice to give that personal example. And I think that how he's going to really meander or detour around that sort of doubt is going to be speaking about human experiences. Because the thing is that we need to change policy based on the experience that people are going through, right? We can't just talk about it blanket and like not really related to anybody. And so even though he thinks that may be something holding him back, it's actually going to be something that helps him succeed and will help draw more people in. 3 to 60 in his chart, he doesn't, see, this is where the trauma is coming in. So he doesn't believe he's resourced. He doesn't believe that he has what it takes. So even though he's very confident, those inner child wounds can kind of come up. And so I don't want to get too into that because it's very sensitive and personal, but we all have value-based doubts, or can I really do this, or am I going to be effective? And some of that will come from his upbringing as well as being adopted. And that doesn't mean that things are bad in the family. It's just like, we have those natural thoughts growing up about who I am, who I ought to be, all that sort of like stuff that swims. And so he's no different. He's still human in that way, where he has the right to grieve and process. So that is that. I'm going to skip the next conditioning and go on to a couple of other things. He has the creativity and the imagination, and so when he tunes into his feminine energy, which is the receptive, nurturing side, he's able to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna move forward this way, oh yeah, this feels really good. And so he's really learning to guide himself based on his intuition. And in his chart, as you can see, from the throat downwards, it's all white basically, right? And that's very common for a projector, because he has the the envisioning up here, he has a hard time tuning into his gut and his instincts and his emotions. He has a hard time feeling grounded because he sees the world in a different way than many others see it. He gets the downloads and the dreams and the messages. He's being vocal, but then he doesn't know at the end of the day, like, okay, what do I really need to do? And so him grounding himself in those moments of uncertainty or chaos is going to be really crucial for him, for him to be able to succeed, including maintaining a healthy relationship in his home life. 39 to 55, because he knows how to advocate. He's an activist for sure, but he has to be mindful that it's not like a glutton for punishment, right? That he's not doing it just to gain something, that he's doing it unconditionally. That's the main thing. A lot of people advocate or show that they care because they want others to, trust in them and then hold on to that hope. And then eventually they end up in greed and ego and control, or they lose their genuineness along the way. And so for him, that's going to be something important for him to maintain in order to keep the trust of Canadians. And that's something like that I was saying, I was already kind of seeing when he was spreading that misinformation. It's like, you can't push the envelope like that to say something false. Like for me, I knew that was false as a lawyer, because I was like, that's not true. That's not what the change was. That's not what the Supreme Court said at all. And so he has to be really mindful to use his voice in a productive way, in the right way, without manipulating the truth. And I think that maintaining that ethical boundary and composure is going to be crucial. And he's really good at, like I said, speaking his truth, telling stories. And so it's like, because that's going to gain a lot of empathy, because it's going to gain a lot of support and people are going to feel heard, he's going to need to match that with actually doing something about it. So it's like, that's great. You can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? What are you implementing? What are you bringing forward? What bills are you introducing? Or what policy or legislation are you, dissenting to? Or what do you want to kind of create in this space? And so it's going to be important, like I said, for him to maintain his groundedness when things start to get tough. And I don't blame him for maybe taking a little bit more time to put his name forward, or his hat forward, to run for conservative leadership. I don't follow politics all that closely, but from what I was reading, some people were upset that he hadn't put his name forward sooner. But then understanding the amount of pressure that he's put under as somebody under the spotlight. Moving on to his birth chart, I want to talk about his sun, moon, rising. His sun sign is Gemini, and so he's able to remain balanced a lot. He can kind of live up here, like I was saying. He has these thoughts and this envisioning for life, but getting grounded is really hard. Gemini's an air sign, so the air is up here, the earth's down here. He needs a little bit of grounding, and so he's able to do that when he hermits. And being in the spotlight means you don't get as much of a chance to hermit, right? You don't get much of a chance to process. Like, you're on a go schedule. Somebody's going to call you the next day and be like, you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this. Where he doesn't have that time to recuperate the energy. And so that's going to be, like I said, very crucial in him moving forward, because he can't be up here. He needs to focus more on his intuitiveness, on remaining grounded, and really showing up as the father that he stands up for, showing up as a unit, showing up as a healthy paternal figure, right? So he has a chance of really changing that. And as we know, Trudeau has not done that. He is quick to anger, rising in Aries. We know, quick to anger if you're in Aries, right? Quick to kind of sabotage. I mean, he hasn't sabotaged much, but he has the ability to do that if he really wants. So again, coming back to the, he has to remain focused. Can't really teeter on the line too much, because if he takes one wrong move, it's going to take him a while to get back up, and it's going to be like, oh, here we go again, and people are going to lose faith and all that. And so we're going to end up in that cycle again and again and again. Some other things I want to look at in his birth chart. Right now, currently, as I'm recording this, Jupiter has just gone into retrograde. His Jupiter is in Leo, and so he is going to have a new sense of confidence in moving forward. And that could also be because we are finishing a Mercury retrograde. The Mercury retrograde time frame that we go through a couple of times a year is reassessing communication, tying up loose ends, redefining things. And so he would have spent the last couple of weeks really seeing who he wants to be and what he wants to stand for, the types of communication he wants to have, the type of authority he wants to have. And so right now it's going to be about expanding his confidence in a way, his confidence in a way that he hasn't before, where he's not coming from ego, he's coming from a place of inner knowing. And so he had, that cocky spree where everyone has his back and everyone likes him. And he's like, yeah, everything's great. Pierre's awesome, blah, 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 which sure is true. But he needs to now take it a step back and be like, okay, the confidence and people's confidence in me is not going to get me anywhere unless I do something about it. Like I said, he's now going to be met with walking the walk after he's talked the talk for a very long time, let's say almost a year now. He's also going to be going through a major transformation when it comes to his, like I said, communication styles, when it comes to his contracts, right? So quite literally, it could be work contracts. It could be reassessing the type of relationship he wants to have with his wife and with his kids. And like I said, maintaining that relationship and having that healthy paternal relationship be at the forefront of his image, and authentically, not unauthentically, because he is an authentic person in that way. That is going to be very, very important for him to maintain a cool, calm demeanor. He can't allow himself to get too far away from his feminine energy, which is also met by his wife, which is also met when he is around his children. He's going to have a healthy work-life balance, which will then start coming into how he sees the country and where the country needs help. He's a little stuck right now. His South Node in Pisces, he's a little stuck in illusion. He's a little stuck with like, well, I don't have to do much to change the country. Everything's going to miraculously change if I am the leader, which we know is not going to be true. And so really tuning into his emotions, kind of like grieving the Canada he thought that was, is going to be really important for him to be able to move forward. And so the last month or so, he was looking more at how everything he's gone through has shaped him to be who he is, and looking at every Canadian as their own, like the own version of him, right? Their own version of him, their own, like their vulnerability, their ability to provide. It's like, how did I feel at this certain time in my life, and how is that manifesting now, like 10 times harder for people that are just growing up, or that are in their teens and their adult years. And so when he starts to talk about all these things that are hard for individuals, like housing prices, inflation, taxes, etc., he actually means that. He's not just doing that to get ahead. It's more common sense stuff that he's bringing forward. And so he's able to really see how he wants to communicate that in an effective way. And I think, like I said, that greenhouse example coming back to me, he was able to pinpoint an exact scenario where there were people that were affected by this tax, or maybe affected by this tax, where they aren't actually contributors to emissions. And the climate change stuff is a whole other thing that I will get into on my Instagram very soon and potentially do a video on. But yeah, I hope that this enlightened you a little bit about Pierre. Please comment, like, and subscribe so I can make more of these videos. If you ever want a life purpose reading like this, or a personal coaching reading or tarot reading, you can book that via the website in my link tree, which is in my bio, or you can email me through my website, hit me up on my Instagram, which is also linked in my bio. I'd love to have you as a client, or see you again if you're a current client. Let me know who else you want me to read on as well, other than Jagmeet Singh, and I will make sure that I get to those messages. I read every one of them. I want to send you all the love, hugs, mutual support. Thank you for always being there for me, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.